All right, cool. Whoever
We can
joins
go.
in later will join in later. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pia's Office Hours. I am Alyssa Castro. I'm the Director of Partner Success here at Pia and your moderator for today's session. We've got an hour booked for us today, and we'll be sharing practical ways to accelerate Pia adoption and usage across your MSP. So joining me today are Vanessa Rivas from Partner Success. She's in our Australia, New Zealand sector, and Joe Spiller, our VP of Technical Sales, both bringing in their hands-on perspective from the field. We're also excited to have our guest host, Dan Ospina, automation architect at New Charter Technologies, who will share his real-world examples and adoption tactics from their own journey. So before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. We'll run the full 60 minutes with time for open discussion and Q&A at the end. We'll use the chat or Q&A feature for questions. I do prefer the Q&A feature. I'll be the one who's moderating these, so if you want to put your questions in the Q&A and then just your comments in the chat, that'd be great. For the chat, you can post publicly or privately at any time that you'd like. I'll be monitoring them and I'll bring the key items into the conversation live where it fits, or we'll just hold it off for the last 10 to 15 minutes. And then lastly, please stay afterward for the short post-session survey. It's like 5 questions. And as I always mention, this feedback shapes future office hours, and it has already. So we do take that feedback very seriously. Going into our agenda for today, Vanessa will kick us off with best practices from her partner success management perspective. And then we'll toss it over to Joe, who will share best practices and examples from his product specialist seat. And then we'll go over to Dan, where he will share his story and talk through what has worked for himself and New Charter. And then we'll end it with the open discussion and Q&A at the end, and then that short survey. All right. So, to get a sense of where y'all are all at today, I'm actually going to throw out a poll at y'all. Launch. And so, yes, please answer this poll. Do your dispatchers currently run any PIA packages today? We're going to touch base on this topic a little bit later in the session. But for now, thank you. I see some feedback coming in already. And Vanessa, I'll toss it over to you to see what you're seeing across our partners.
Awesome. Thanks, Alyssa, and welcome everyone. We're excited to have you today. So, for this topic, I have to say that I'm very, very passionate about it. I speak with my partners about it daily. And from a PSM perspective, I truly believe that it's in our DNA to help our partners get the most value out of PIA. We live in, excuse me, we live and breathe it every single day. I just want to share some practical tips with you to hopefully help simplify your journey and build momentum along the way. Now, this one might seem extremely obvious, but I cannot emphasize it enough. Leverage your partner success manager. When you meet with us regularly, we keep communication going. We talk about what's on your roadmap. What are your goals? We talk about upcoming events and product releases. We also delve into adoption rates and how to get those rates up. Now, I have to say that the Partner Success Manager team, we work very closely together to find solutions. So we talk with each other about challenges and roadblocks and how to overcome those. So these are actual examples from other MSPs. We also talk about wins and successes, and then we share those with you in hopes that you could leverage those in the future. Now, Dan, great to have you again. I just wanted to ask you, since we have you, how has your partner success manager supported your journey along the way?
Well, so helped a lot with the onboarding and the training of the teams. But really what helps drive is going over the adoption reports. Um, you start going over those missed opportunities and you can either go a couple routes, right? You can go train the technicians, right? Or retrain, or you can look at the tickets and be like, okay, let's automate that, right? That is a true missed opportunity. Um, so that is where you'll see, at least for myself, the most value.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, let's dive into tip 2, which is focusing on one key area at a time. When I first started my own journey with Pia, I remember this is just a standout conversation that I had with a partner. And mind you, they were just finished with onboarding. We chatted a little bit, got to know each other, and then we got into the nitty-gritty of what they were working on with Pia. And I remember he kind of looked a little bit like, he said, the sky is the limit with this platform. And it truly is. It really, really is. From triage to smart forms to zero touch automations to custom automations to building out your own extensions to add on to existing automations. There is so much you can do with it. Now, where I'm getting at with this is prioritize what will drive the biggest impact in your company. Don't try tackling everything at once. It's not going to work. We see it time and time again. You want to execute each goal with intention and purpose. It's so important to know where you want to get to with this platform. It's great to know where you want to get to, but it's equally as important to understand the small steps that it'll take to get you there. Now, Joe, with that said, do you have any examples of partners who started small and ended up scaling quite successfully?
Yeah, definitely. Well, a couple big things about that is I've seen it both ways too. I've seen people where they're getting, they come running in and they're like, I'm ready to build something, blah, 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 blah. I was like, whoa, let's slow down here a little bit. Core implementation is really the key to onboarding. That very first meeting that we have where we start to set up the clients, I always tell everybody, let's get the core implementation done. That means just across the board, get the client set up so you guys can run the out of the box automations right away. We can customize later, we can do smart forms later, we get into all that, why everybody's running those automations. And that is really the big turning point for everybody when they see that, like, oh, I didn't realize we can run those like right away. Yeah. We set up a client, bam, you're running automation. So that is really the key is to focus on that area and then get into triage, smart forms,
Yeah.
building your own automations. We have training sessions on all of those, and we continue down the road with your partner success manager as yourselves. You guys may come in a year later and say, hey, we need help again. Kind of, lost focus on what we were doing. Bam, we'll get on a meeting and, knock that out for you.
And then plus just a quick one on what you just said is that needing that help maybe a year later after you initially have those discussions, the product continues to evolve. So you might
Absolutely.
need that update, I need to have that chat to get the updates on what's been happening. All right, well, that actually leads into my last tip. And I think that's quite a good segue into it, is just assigning clear peer roles. This means that you have a dedicated team or owners responsible for PIA. This doesn't mean that they're working on just PIA, of course, but just having those that will drive that outcome. So what this would look like is a PIA admin, the first one. This would be your technical lead, someone who understands the environment and the configuration. Of your PIA portal. So they would enable more automation along the way. And then you have your PIA manager. This is the person that would drive the adoption across your service desk team. They're the ones that would own that piece. Where there's no owner, there's no accountability. And then that means there's slow outcomes or potentially even no outcomes, which we do not want to see. Definitely not. Uh, PSMs can guide you and support you. That is what we're here for. We love it, but we cannot drive those internal outcomes for you as much as we wish we could sometimes. So that leads to the last role, which I believe requires a special mention because we always talk to our partners about this model. And that would be the PIA champion. That's having 1 to 2 dedicated people owning automation work. And what this does is it drives consistency and quality and speed. It also reduces optional usage from the wider team, which leads to better outcomes overall. So rolling out to everyone, we kind of see that that waters down adoption sometimes, even though some partners do it very, very successfully. But I think a champion fixes that. So before I hand over to you, Joe, I'm just curious what your thoughts are around this one, like having these.
Yeah, I mean the roles are really important to establish that. And we try to do that the very first call in the project setup meetings and all that. And I'm sure a lot of people in this call have been in those. Yeah, for anybody new out there, it's really defining those roles on both sides to have a great project. I've done so many tool sets over my MSP days that and Dan's probably shaking his head. Yeah, it gets it gets there's a lot to some of these. We are not just a tool, we're a full platform, right? So there's a lot of moving parts and all that. So I do think it's really important to establish those roles, but to have cross training on those roles also. So
Yes.
always think about that. And that was going to be my segue into where I was going, if you don't mind, unless you're. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, I kind of wanted to segue in that because I thought about this when me and Vanessa were talking the other day about, these roles and all that. But I think I can give you some insight on some things that you could do related to that, especially, after onboarding when you're working with that project or the partner success manager. Think about like on training plans and adoption, okay? Not just adoption across the board, but think about ongoing training for your staff, for your admins, for everybody. That could be like lunch and learns. You guys can, think about what's new with PIA because believe me, we come up with a lot of new things, okay? And they're still coming. So we've got a bunch of new things coming. But really, kind of learning about those, you guys get the emails, we have the knowledge at PIA that goes through that. But always have somebody that has that mentality to know what's coming and to kind of get up to speed on that. Using a lunch and learn is a great way for your techs to, find out about these new tools. So it just doesn't go, they don't know they go, oh, I didn't know about that. We want them to know about it so they can use the product even more. And those lunch and learns, I've actually done these a few times. Talk to your partner success manager. Maybe bring us in on a lunch and learn. We can hop on there and talk. I'm sorry, dealing with a cold, but you know, we can have a lunch and learn with you guys and let us kind of show you some new things and maybe some best tips, practices, and all that as we're moving forward. Yeah, and then
Nice.
I already
I
mentioned, kind
actually,
of talked about. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
before, yeah, before we get going in, I put this in the chat, Joe, but someone asked about the different roles and responsibilities that we would recommend
Yeah.
from the partner side. And I know we have a few, the PIA champion being one of them. And I know I put the answer in the chat, but would you like to talk through those different roles real quick?
Yeah, definitely. So we do go through these roles. We establish that at the beginning. Of course, those can maneuver. They change over a period of time, but the PIA sponsor is really decision makers and all that, and driving PIA. The PIA admin generally will be the technician. That's the person I'm working with the most when we're doing onboarding. The person that's probably going to train the teams up as going forward as they're moving. PIA champion is your service tech. They're the champions, right? They're the ones running the automations, right? It could be the out of box or the ones we build out. And the PIA managers of often, overseeing the service desk, the roles, all that, and what that entails. So yeah, I'm glad you put that in there. That's great. And did somebody have a question out there? Let's see. Okay.
That was it for now.
That was
Thank
it
you,
for now.
Joe.
Great. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, all good. And I kind of mentioned, that core implementation. You know, your text could be like running those automations. It's really important that we, when you're going in, and this is for anybody out there that's not a partner now, is to get that core implementation done. Maybe have 50 clients. That's a pretty quick setup to get going and to run those automations. So just always think about that when you're coming in with us. We will have multiple training sessions on getting you up on smart forms, triage, the new automation hub, all these different things that are out there, and then training for your full staff. We're big on the training sessions here, as you can tell. So there's a couple things. I always get this question too. Like, we start out with PIA. A lot of people come in for those onboarding and offboardings. Those are a big driver, especially when you're new to PIA to get those going. They're very time consuming and all that. People love those, okay? But I think over a period of time, this is why we hammer adoption all the time. It's like those are not the only two automations, people. We have a lot more. We have a lot more out there that could do a lot more. So just be thinking about that. And then I always get questions about like, well, what are some of the bigger automate? What are some of the other ones out there that are really high use and people use quite a bit? Adding and removing users from groups is a big one, like distro list or any kind of group out there. That's a big one. Shared mailbox permissions, we get quite a bit of those all the time. And you just won't believe like when you run those, if you haven't run them, you should be running them, but the speed of how fast that happens, where you're not having to log in anything, that's how PIA was built, right? So those are some big ones. And then I want you guys to think about these, like, because they sometimes they get lost in the shuffle out there, especially because we have, the new auto start features with some of these, but um, all the teams in the OneDrive troubleshooters, and I'm sure many people on this call have heard me say this 10 million times, but I don't know of any end user that knows how to exit out of Teams. Okay, they call in with a Teams issue. Everybody hits the X, they think they're out, and that's not the case, right? Nobody wants to reboot either. So how do we fix you without all that? Teams troubleshooter is a great automation to run. We can log them out, log them back into Teams. It usually, oh, it's working again. Great. Okay. So those are a couple of big ones, and those are in AI triage also as auto start. So they can be auto start and do magic fixes in the background too. Challenge user identity. So think about like people calling in for password resets. Well, says his name is Mary and it sounds like me. That could be, where we want to challenge that person, make sure. So the challenge user identity, we could send an MFA code and, and once we establish that, then we can reset the password. So that's a big one out there. And then some of the other things that we can do, just to get the ROI out of everything. We have collateral out there. If you guys, think about like, well, how do we get our text to know that there's these automations out there? Well, of course, in the PIA chatbot, you can search for those. So if you're looking for something, you can go in there and search. And we also have these, of course, on our knowledge base. We can get collateral to you to share with your team. Multiple ways to doing that. And then let's say we get to the point where, your partner success manager is talking to you. It was like, well, we really need to like deep dive into like figuring out where, we're missing the opportunities. We had the adoption report. Dan mentioned that earlier. You can see that on there. But what about running a white space analysis? And you're probably asking, well, what is a white space analysis? So that is really where we can run a tool to determine, like on your ticketing system, on your PSA, to determine like how much time you're spending in certain areas. Maybe maybe you're doing something with a third party tool all the time and it's taking a lot of time. I think that's kind of where Dan went, it's like this thing's taking a lot of time. Let's figure out how to automate, let's build an automation around that. But, we can really, give you insights on where to go with this. Let's plan some things out to make this even better for you. So that's a thing that we do all the time for our partners to figure out, where do you go next? So that's some of the big things there. Now, leveraging PIA beyond the basics, right? We've got all the basics down. We went through onboarding and all that. What are some of what other things that's going to happen here? So I'm pretty sure you guys have already seen, our last office hours, and the YouTube videos out there on our new automation hub, right? So that thing is going to be a gigantic add to PIA. Where though if you haven't seen it, you got to go out and watch that sometime. But the automation hub is going to be really, really big. It's where you're going to be able to install like we call them PIA packs within your tenant. So we're coming up with 30 more automations that you're going to be able to install on your own if you want to use those. They may not be practical for everybody's use, but they'll be out there. But the automation hub is going to be a big thing. And then I can mention it. Coming soon, even after that, think about like some of the time that it takes to spend to build automations, right? With PIA. Dan can give you some insight after I like segue over to him. But what if we had basically an automation builder built within the PIA admin portal where it could help you build those automations? Coming soon, coming soon. So we'll let the cat out of the bag too much on that, but I had to say it. I'll probably get in trouble, but that's okay. But yeah, that's really what we have coming up. And just some of the things you can do related to PIA is building automations. That is a big thing with our platform. We have an integration gateway. You can plug any API into that. If you can PowerShell script it, sky's the limit. And that's where I'm going to hand it over to my good buddy Dan and let him tell you his story.
Appreciate that, Joe. All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Ospina. I'm the automation architect at New Charter Technologies. My mission is pretty simple. It's to build automation solutions that scale across our entire MSP network that services tens of thousands of clients. I've worked help desk, I've worked NOC, I've been a sysadmin, I've been a supervisor, I've been a manager, I've been a director. I have been on the MSP block pretty much my entire career, my adult working life. And our journey with PIA is new and it's just starting. And PIA has been an amazing partner through this whole onboarding process. They're super responsive, they're inclusive, they're collaborative, and they really do want you to succeed. When I start building automations, I always keep one thing in the front of my mind. I'm not looking at PIA as being an RPA platform for a help desk. It's so much more than that. While enabling help desk technicians to get things done quicker is amazing on its own, right? Taking a 2 to 4 hour task that a VCIO or a CSM would be tasked with and condensing that down into 15 seconds, now that's something else. PIA can be useful to everyone in an MSP, from the very bottom to the very top. For our finance and our VCIOs and our customer success groups, a small example, and also a very impactful one, would be you can do security stack audits for your clients. With these, you can pull things like your threat history, machine counts, the machine statuses as far as when it was onboarded, the agent versions, the assigned users, the activities on that device, enabled protections, so on and so forth. User and service accounts, API accounts audits, RBAC configuration, all with a nice custom website styled report and downloadable CSV. This lets finance true up their counts, okay? All with, VCIOs and CSMs give detailed information to clients on their posture. An easy 2 to 4 hour task per client, done in 15 seconds. You can do Active Directory and IDP audits, MFA audits. Funny thing about this next one, time entry audits within your PSA. And literally, as I was writing this out for this little speech, I thought to myself, why am I putting that in there? I don't have that automation. So I went and built it, 2 of them. One audits the tickets time entries, and the other, you can audit a text time entries within a given time period. It's that easy with PIA, and I did both of those within like 2.5 hours. For our sysadmins, our L3s, our L2s, I'm building things like exchange audits, things checking your DNS setups, your DMARC, your DKIM, your SPFs, your in and out connectors, your transport rules, your accepted domains, your anti-policies as far as malware, spam, phishing, safe attachments, logging and retention policies, so on and so forth, right? Anything through the API. User and endpoint compromise mitigation. This one's super slick. I'm not finished with it yet, but it's checking user accounts and endpoints that the user is currently logged into, and it is pulling a plethora of data, and it will execute scans. It will execute lockdown on the IDP account, depending on what's found, all within seconds. Admin and admin role audits within any platform with an API. User login activity reports, license audits. We're doing system maintenance at the endpoint level, automated disk cleanups, automated SFC scans and fixes, DISM operations, diagnostics with automated remediation. All these automations are a lot easier than you think to create, and this is just to name a very small few of things that we're building. At first, the thought of building all this, it seemed a lot heavier than just going and doing the thing, right? Giving Susan access to Billy's calendar, or going into SentinelOne and putting together that 4-hour report for this client every 3 months. It's not true. But after we spent 6 hours building that SentinelOne audit and saw the return from it, the 6 hours of dev work felt like nothing and everything all at the same time. Absolute game changer to take a 4-hour task and turn it into 15 seconds. Game changer. These aren't just ideas that we have either. These are real life automations that work every time without failure, without fat fingering, without huffing and puffing about having to do this stinking task for the 11th time this year, right? For a client that has thousands of users that you have to pour through, and you can't use the built-in reporting for that SaaS app because their reporting is garbage, right? I'd say don't get me started, but I can feel my blood pressure right now. And I couldn't do any of this alone, not at this scale, not at this speed. I do embrace AI for coding. I bring the MSP expertise, right? And Claude brings the ability to iterate without getting tired, without getting frustrated, and at expert levels if you push it properly. Honestly, with AI's help, no MSP has the excuse of not wanting RPA due to lift anymore. We have no excuse not to turbocharge our MSPs with an ancient technology that PIA brings to our tables very well. And AI enables us to do it at record pace and record precision. As for best practices, here are mine, some of them. First and foremost, to help drive adoption, you can't just drop PIA into your ecosystem, let everybody know about it, and hope for the best. You will fail almost immediately. For those accessing Microsoft tenants, to make simple user and group edits, get drastic, take away their access. PIA now handles those tasks, and it handles it right from the ticket window. They don't have to go and find passwords and MFA codes and get to the URL, and you get it, so on and so forth, right? Speak towards it in your one-on-ones if you're in leadership. Take a sample of tickets. I took a sample of your tickets. Looking at these 5, I can see that you don't use PIA, or that you didn't use PIA to reset Janet's Microsoft password all 5 times she called. Why not? These were calls waiting in queue, and you took the long scenic route to do your work. It's okay to say those things here. Direct reports drive adoption. through your one-on-ones. Update your instructions that your techs use. So I'm pretty sure every MSP I've ever worked for had a team that did the onboarding and offboarding of user accounts, and every single one of those techs, at least in the beginning, were provided steps, instructions of exactly what to do so that we don't mess up our clients' onboarding and offboardings, right? Important, as we should. Update those instructions. If they're going to follow the instructions, inject PIA into them. Makes sense. I would have already been finished using PIA, right? By the time they went and got a password, looked for where the MFA codes were, got into the tenant, found the user, so on and so forth. I'm already done. I've already noted the ticket, and PIA put time in the ticket for me and closed it. Have CSMs and VCIOs gathering client data, but they're not making any system changes in whatever stack or whatever SaaS app. Yank their access away. Replace with PIA automations. Tap into the Stack's APIs and gather the data infinitely quicker and without error. Set up PIA to check all incoming tickets within the same queue that your triage techs work from. Heavily train those triage techs. This lets you automate your low-hanging, non-break fix tickets within minutes of them hitting the support queues. Dedicate a resource to building automations. PIA isn't what comes with the box. It is the box, a platform to build automations into anything with an API. What PIA provides is just a massive bonus to what PIA actually is as a platform. And lastly, invest in AI and learn how to use it properly. Otherwise, it will take you days or weeks to build what you can get done with AI in hours. Thank you.
That's awesome.
I love that. And
Nice
Dan,
job, Dan.
around removing access for specific L1s, I've seen that with a few partners, and it has truly driven a lot of adoption and usage. Sometimes it does take that, and I'm sure as you've seen yourself, it's made things just uniform across the board when handling tickets.
Yep. And I used to run a security department. I love the sound of, oh, nobody has access anymore except for just, one very heavily monitored service. Sounds awesome.
That's becoming more and more of a discussion that's coming up with some of my partners. Just, I haven't brought it up, but it's coming up to me, and they're talking about just removing that access. So it's interesting to hear it from your perspective, Dan.
I'll say
All
that's
right, we
really
got
neat to hear from a lot of partners. Like, especially like brand new employees they hire on, they don't have to give them that, that access out of the box. It's, that's pretty cool to hear from a lot of people.
And you really do save
all
so
right.
much time as you bring more and more into the PSA, right? The more you can, we use ConnectWise. We have pods galore, pods coming out of pods, right? But we still don't have to leave our window, and it's been game changing for a lot of people.
It's great.
All right, are y'all ready for a few questions? We have some that if y'all noticed, attendees, whenever y'all registered, you had the option of submitting a question. So we have a few that are on the front line, and then we have a few that have been submitted. Y'all ready? And
Are
then
we ready?
again, yeah, y'all right. Is everyone ready? Attendees, if y'all can use the Q&A section so I don't lose the questions. We've answered a few in the chat, but if you can use the Q&A section, that would be very helpful. But we'll go to some of the ones that were asked during registration. So, what are some ideas to encourage entry-level engineers to keep relevant Microsoft skills while using automations such as PIA?
Well, I can tell you right now that what PIA is doing is not the break fix within your Microsoft tenant. It is the office work, the administrative type tasks, right? The updating, the add edits, the removes of users, their permissions and access, groups and their access permissions and members, things like that. PIA is not fixing Microsoft when it's down by any means. PIA is meant to automate the mundane. And I can tell you right now, nobody's growing in their Microsoft administrative journeys by, managing groups and users. Not in the long
And
run.
a lot of, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
No, I was just saying not in the long run anyway. I don't mean to
Yeah,
sound.
I think a lot of people get stuck there too on a service desk, when they come in, that, advancing, going to level two or wherever they want to go, you get stuck there for a while. I've seen it, in real time. You get stuck there because those tickets are just overwhelming every day. And that's what we're trying to do. That was our mission when we first built PIA, coming from the MSP, right? So then I think the way you look at it now is like now there's time for training, like real training. We all talk about it in the MSP space. We need to train. Well, nobody has time to train. Now you have some time to train and get those people up to speed because nobody wants to reset passwords all day or set up users.
Nice. It's kind of a good layup into the next one. Is there a function to auto assign tickets to techs? And I'm pretty sure whoever asked this, your PSM did reach out to you before this session, but we'll go ahead and discuss it in front of the whole group.
To auto assign text to certain
Yes,
tickets?
is there a function to auto assign tickets to techs?
Yeah, absolutely. You can use the AI and triage functions built into PIA, create rule sets to assign text. Could be to a certain client. You can set up different types of rules and conditions based off of that.
Nice. Cool. Awesome. Next question. How do you deal with variance? And also, we'll go into one of these a little bit later, but if y'all would like to see it, we can also share screen and show you too. But we'll definitely talk about it first. Okay. How do you deal with variance in client processes without creating a ton of custom extensions and procedures?
Or did it give any more information than that? That's
No, it
You
didn't.
deal with it by setting it up properly, right? You're already dealing with the variance manually when you're going in and manually creating these users in the hundreds of different tenants for the hundreds of different clients, right? So yes, we do have to account for those slight variances and the caveats from one tenant to the next, but you only do it that one time instead of every time.
that
And then
every
it's
time.
instantly done after that.
Good point.
But there is another point on that. And I think people forget about this. So like, let's talk about the onboarding package for a minute. The basic onboarding out of the box experience, right? Well, in that actual package per client, there's a configuration area in there. And there's a ton of things that you can enable and disable and add on and all that without any coding whatsoever. Basic drop down menus. I've created access levels before. Like you create access levels for a department, which could tie to multiple different types of, groups and shared mailboxes, OUs, depending on the environments, of course. But yeah, that has a lot of features in there that people think they do have to build extensions for, and they don't. So always go check there first if there's a configuration area within the automations.
Thank you. Thank you, team. Okay, here's one that was submitted live. Um, is there a way to see existing PIA packages so that we can better understand existing packages? For context, I'm a frontline tech. I recently wanted to alter the bulk offboarding to have a now versus later function that's present in the individual offboarding. Tongue twister.
Well, a couple things you could do on that. You could add the
Mhm.
extension to add a scheduling feature within there. Right? Wouldn't that be right, Dan? That'd be a right on point.
That's one route, yeah.
Yeah. What's the other route?
The other route is, what I would do is I would ask PIA for access to that package and I would probably see what they're doing and tweak it a little or make my own version. But honestly, the extension that's reusable, right? You can plop that
Yeah.
stuff anywhere. That's a great
We would
idea.
rather people use extensions so we can continually update those packages too. That's the important thing about extensions, just to let everybody know. Using extensions, we can still update, enhance all that. If we give you a copy of it, that's not going to get updated anymore. So something to think about.
Correct.
Which leads to a great next question. What's the best way to ask Pia for existing packages? I'm going to say today, versus what it'll be like whenever we have the automation hub that's
Yeah.
live for everybody.
Yeah, you could basically send us a support ticket. If you
Yeah.
need a package, we could definitely put it in your tenant right now until we have the automation hub. But yeah, that'll be the way to go.
Yeah, then we'll throw it into your sandbox and you can play around
Yep.
with it. All right, we had one more that was sent to us via registration. Um, can Pia accommodate the development of a webhook setup?
Dan, do you know that?
Haven't tried it yet.
We do have more to this. So we need the ability to send a webhook at specific points within a setup, within a step. Simply creating the user and enter ID isn't sufficient in many cases, as additional steps and actions need to occur in Microsoft 365. Additionally, there are specific fields in the Microsoft Entra directory that we need to populate for certain users beyond the standard first name, last name, and email. For example, we need to update custom attributes such as the manager field or less common fields. Can something like this be accomplished?
1000%. So in every single client, they have the list of packages. If you go to the client with this super special setup, you find the onboarding one, and there's a global settings in there where you can define a plethora of things for the onboarding of the user. Down towards the bottom, there are cloud and Active Directory attributes that you can add in manually. So, the ones that aren't, like you mentioned, out of the box, right? Who's their manager or
Yeah.
what their phone number is, right? You want to know, like, well, I don't know what you want to know, but something that's not listed by default in the PO package, right? That you can put custom attributes, yes.
Yeah, here's
Great.
here's that onboarding pack. I didn't share my screen. So used to
Oh,
Teams not
yeah,
sharing.
even better. Yeah, you've got
Yeah,
to click it like 3 times.
I know. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you see this right here? So yeah, this is like under one of my clients, the actual onboarding package. And this is that configuration we were all talking about right here. So there's places in there to set those custom areas.
Awesome. Thank you for showing
Yeah.
this. This is very helpful.
Yep.
Okay, well, while you're sharing screen, uh, or
I can
while
still do it.
yeah, we had one comment in
Oh,
the
Gavin said he did an extension.
chat. Yeah,
Joe, go.
I have it somewhere here. Yes. So can you show the example of Pia automatically putting time in a ticket? Where is it
Sure.
configured? Where to configure this?
Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah, awesome, Gavin.
Yeah, so where we would go is under configuration right here, and
Hmm.
then into tenant settings, and then right down here is where you set the automated time logging. You could do this like you can do all clients, you can do it based off tags. So if you guys want to create custom tags like called time logging or something like that, You can apply that to those clients, so that'll split out the clients for you. So if you really want to customize that out. And then there's a couple different ways of doing the time entries. But if you're using smart forms, you're going to want to create basically a user here from your PSA. It's going to pull your PSA list right here of users, and you will have to specify a user if you're using smart forms you want to do automated time logging.
The great thing
And
about
that's
this
where it
list
is.
is it does show
Awesome.
not only the PS out of the box automations, but when you do make your own and promote them to production, they will show up in here so that you can go assign
Hmm.
that
Yeah, I
time to
probably
them.
should show that too right here. Yeah, this is where you can come in here and put whatever time you want that's applied to the automations. And if you do custom automations, they'll show up in here too. All right.
Awesome. Thank you for showing.
Yep.
Okay. From Buck, how will the automation hub work with legacy packages? Legacy packages. Will there be duplication in the tenant? Good question.
There will not. I don't think we're bringing the legacy over. I think we just started where it'll be just strictly new. We're coming out with, I think, 30 in the new automation hub. It'll strictly be new going forward. So yeah, we definitely didn't want to do that.
Perfect. While on the topic of smart forms, do you have examples of custom smart forms we should be considering outside of user adds and changes?
I love this question because I always tell
Yeah.
everybody, like with smart forms, think way outside the box with it. Our automations are great, but Dan gave a great example earlier about like maybe salespeople need certain reports, or maybe a client needs a certain report. So what if you built an automation? Let's take a end user saying, "Man, I need this report that shows who's using licenses, how many I have available, all that." This has really happened too. So a lady used to call into this client and say every week, it was like every Friday, they knew it was coming, right? Basically, somebody had to take the call, somebody had to log in, determine how many licenses and who was using it, blah, 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 spit out a report. That all takes time on everybody's part, right? So they built a smart form, and basically she logs in the smart form now, pulls that, she has the report within the ticket, everybody has the report, and bam, everybody's done. Everybody can go on about their day. That's a great use case of smart forms. I mean, it's like everybody's getting, the best part of it, with the whole nobody has to wait around, right? So that's really cool. I know
Yeah,
salespeople have used it. Yeah.
I would rather
What's
build a
that?
smart report for our clients than go into BrightGauge and configure a
Yeah. Yeah.
dash.
Nobody wants that. Yeah. Chasing down reports, and everybody needs the reports the last minute, and everybody's scrambling. Yeah. Yeah, always think outside the box with smart forms because you can create some really cool things.
Perfect. We have a question around onboarding. We have a new partner in their onboarding configuration stage. So, Vanessa, I think this is actually a pretty good question for you. What would you recommend us to focus on first to get started on the right foot in onboarding?
I would recommend getting the uptake on the out of the box packages um, done first, I guess. Getting your technicians to utilize what's already available to them so that they can get used to the product. Um, I had a conversation with one of my partners a couple weeks ago, and they said, we've been customizing, we've been doing this, we've been doing that. That's been their focus. But the uptake of the out of the box packages was never there. So I just said,
Mhm.
let's rein it in. Let's go back to the basics. We need to focus on that adoption rate. We need to look at the missed opportunities, low hanging fruit, get your technicians used to utilizing the automations, and then look at customization. Because if you customize but there's no usage, what's the point in spending all that time, right? So I think that's really a foundational piece in having success with PIA.
Beautifully said. Awesome. Um, this one's for you, Dan. What was the biggest mindset shift for you when adopting PIA? Or maybe it's you on behalf of your team.
That it's too much of a lift to write a script into supposedly the upkeep of that said script, right?
Hmm.
RPA is not a new technology, like I said earlier, right? The senior sysadmins, if there are any in this room, I'm talking to you. You've been doing that for a hot minute, right? It's just a lift. It's not anymore. Um, so once I got over that, and I kept putting the context of what PIA is in the forefront of my brain, which is if it has an API, I can go manipulate it. Game changer, game changer.
Nice. Good. I like that. It's not as difficult as it may seem.
Well, with all
Okay,
the
I
tools
have,
out there to help you along the way now, it's
Yeah.
yeah,
You just got to know what you want,
right.
and
yeah.
sky's the limit.
How Last question we have right now. So I know we've got 6 minutes left, so a couple more minutes for questions. So if you have any, shoot them over now. We've got one more. How do you recommend, maybe this one is for either Joe or Dan or any of y'all. How do you recommend that MSPs start? What's the first automation they should build on the custom side, I'm assuming, after we get going with all the out of the box automations? What should we play around with
So
next?
we see at least and that's what I've been focused on in the beginning, is the biggest time involvement, which is auditing of systems, right? Nobody wants to do it, needs to be done if you want to bill properly and things like that, right? It takes hours to go into, I probably mentioned it 4 times now, Sentinel-1, and do a proper audit of the client, not just for like device counts and make sure that they're paying the proper amount monthly, but like that they're actually secure and on the proper agent versions and things like that. Hours of a process. And it's reoccurring, right? We provide, if they're a full MSP client, odds are they're getting a monthly or quarterly or whatever sort of reoccurring, visit from their CSM or VCIO, right? So it's a task that has to be done, and it has to be done accurately if we want to keep our clients. And it's hours long. PIA, absolute game changer, automating audits and reporting and things like that.
Yeah, I'll just tack onto that. I think every MSP is different, of course. They're going to have different things that take time. And generally, I've seen it on the user onboardings, user termination kind of thing, where I talk about the extensions. Like take small little steps, just add on to those. Find things. If you got a third party tool that you got to set up for a brand new user, also, create that one, add it on. You don't have to do it all at one time. Just keep adding. You can add as many extension points as you want.
Beautiful. We have a couple more that came in. Please show where Pia can enter time and auto respond on a new ticket.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Please
So
show where Pia can enter time and auto respond on a new ticket. Maybe, yeah, go
do you
ahead, Joe.
actually want to see the time applied?
Or where we're configuring it.
this is where
This
we
is an
were, the
anonymous.
configuration tenant and the automated
Hmm.
time billing.
And
Yeah,
I'm not going to share
that's what,
this.
am I sharing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Would you configure the auto reply somewhere else, Joe?
Yeah, the auto reply is somewhere else. So this is the automated time logging. And
Hmm.
then within smart forms is wow, somebody's been playing around in my demo environment. Nice. Um, Let me come over to this one. A different one. Auto reply.
There you go.
So you can reach that from right here. And basically, this is where you can format all that out. And then specify a sender, change your link expiration time. I recommend, going at least 60 on that. And then when you come to your clients, you will be able to, you can set it across the board, auto reply on, or you can set it per automation. So you turn it on or off.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Anonymous. I feel like it did, but let
Yeah.
us know. All right. Last question we'll get through today is what strategies is a little bit open-ended. I think we can get through it. What strategies have worked best for driving adoption with the techs? I'm assuming.
That sounds like a
Well,
question for,
I'll give a shout out to what you said earlier, Dan, is removing certain access for your L1s. It almost forces them to use.
hmm
Right. And let's be honest, if they're going into Microsoft tenant the 30th one that day, right? And they're going to update a group, it's muscle memory for them. So they're making about 30-ish, 40 clicks. They're doing the same thing in PIA, but they're not leaving the window and they're doing it in about 3 clicks, in about 15 minutes less time too. It just makes sense.
And
It's
it does
PIA
go
is
back to
not
the question
taking
earlier,
away.
like they're not learning anything at that point.
Right,
It's
yeah.
muscle
PIA is
memory.
not taking away learning opportunities by any means.
Hmm.
PIA is taking away the mundane and the repetition so that we can go and have time to learn. And it's great.
I find it differs as well from how the message is delivered to the team. So if from the top, this is how we're going to do it going forward, and then you'll have more time to work on the high value tasks, more time to upskill, but we are going to be using PIA versus, well, not really given that direction. And I think that's where the PIA roles and clear roles come into play, where someone is really driving that adoption.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I thought you
Thank
froze up there
you.
for a minute.
Oh, did I freeze?
No, Alyssa, I thought Alyssa froze up for a minute.
I thought everything froze for a second for me. Well,
It's a live
all right.
webinar.
Thank you guys. It has been our hour today. Um, I guess in totality, reach out or your PSM should be reaching out to you. Meet regularly. We want to meet with you, hear what's going on, get things going. So just thank you for joining today. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Dan, for sharing your insights. It's always really nice to hear from an actual partner of ours to see what they're actually going through. If you're looking for more ways to stay connected, folks, we've got our January office hours coming up. And in that office hours, we will be talking through everything that's new in PS. So I say this every month, but so excited for that one. We've got some good stuff coming in that one as well. So
That's good.
keep
We get to
it.
say that every month. There is something new
Yeah.
every month.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that link coming to you in an email soon. Um, All right. And then also shout out to our Discord community. If you haven't joined, please do. I'm putting the link in the chat right now. There you go. It's the best way to stay up to date on PIA, share ideas, and chat directly with other partners as well as our dev team. And then finally and lastly, please do submit that short survey that comes after this session. It is really helpful. Please be as candid as possible. We read every response. I especially read every response and use it for our next sessions. So awesome. Thank you again for spending the time with us today.